Hello, everybody. Welcome to another live stream. This has been a fantastic week. We've had, of course, the Bank of Canada rate hike. We had a whole bunch of different stuff, and we're going to definitely hit on all of that news in a moment or two. Right off the bat, I just want to say thank you for everybody who's here. I can see we got a few folks already popping up over on the chat. Also, a huge thank you to those who are watching this at home. Well, you're all probably watching this at home, but to those of you who are watching this on the replay, because you guys do make up a good amount of our viewership. So you guys are all definitely appreciated as well. Okay, awesome. Let's get things rolling here. Very quickly, if you want to be paying attention to my portfolio, the place to do that is over on Blossom. And I will tell you, just drop a link here for you. Blossom is wonderful. It is a social media tool just for us investors. It used to just be Canadian investors, but they are looking to expand into the US. So that's all going to be very exciting. When you're over there, you can see anything I'm doing. You can take a look at my portfolio and some nice graphics, all of that fun stuff. So check out Blossom. If you haven't yet tried it out, give it a whirl. Use my little link there. And make sure you follow me when you're over there, because then I will follow you back and we'll have conversations in the Blossomverse. All right. Let's just say, first of all, let's greet some folks here. We got Vic in the house. Hello, Vic. It is good to see you. Jordan is hey ho the Dario. And 9 is definitely banana bread for life. Wayne Smith, let's go. Let's make some banana bread dough. King a day, holy banana bread. I'm here on time. Hello. That is awesome. Jordan says, did you just say cornholio? I have no, portfolio. That's probably better. The other one sounds kind of dirty, even though I don't think it is, but it sounds dirty. Zach says, hi. Hi there, Zach. It is good to see you. Also, just going to mention this very quickly. Until the 13th of September, Wealthsimple has quadrupled, so 4 times their sign-up bonus. So if you're not yet using Wealthsimple, and that is something that you are, of course, interested in, I'm going to just drop you my little referral link here for you. Give it a whirl. Give it a try. You'll get some money. I'll get some money too, which helps the channel keep going, which is always a fantastic thing. All right. Vic says, had to sit through 2 minutes of ads. 2 whole minutes. Holy banana bread. It's one of the reasons that when I start, I usually don't say anything important in the first 2 minutes, because I realize people like Vic are sitting through 2 minutes of ads. But at the same time, Vic, thank you for watching those ads, because I do get paid a little tiny bit of money for those ads, which is kind of good. Zach says, I'm opening a QT account to hold SCHD VYM grow in my RRSP. Any thoughts? Any thoughts is probably what he means. Yeah, a lot of people love SCHD. That's actually one of out of the American ETFs that are the American companies. That's just one I hear a lot about. Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah, that's your RRSP is definitely the place you want to put it, just because you're getting all of the money, which is kind of great. But I do want to look. I really should do a video on SCHD. It just comes down to, well, to be honest, whenever I do my American videos, they don't do as well, but I still think they're important to do. So I have that on my radar. SCHD. Vic says Canada gets moo moo now. I don't know what a moo moo now is. Something to do with cows, I think. Bonnie says, hey, Candace. Hey, Bonnie. Hi, nice to see you. Let's see. Jordan says, you should really get YouTube Premium at Vic. Commercial free, and Canada Ace still gets the dough for our viewership of the ads. Well, you shouldn't be getting any ads if you've got premium. But yes, I still get, when you have premium, when you're watching YouTube, the YouTubers do get a little bit. They don't make, believe it or not, we make more from the people who don't have premium, which is kind of ironic because of the way YouTube really tries to push the premium. But Yeah, that's how it works. Vaughn says, whoops, good afternoon, all. If you do SCHD, offer alternatives. Okay, all right, I'll keep that in mind, Vic. Zach says, not even particularly SCHD. I just want a div and growth US ETF for my RRSP, similar to holding VDY XEI in the Canadian markets. Yeah. VOO is another good one that you may want to look at, Zach, just to put that out there. Mumu, oh, the free online brokerage now available in Canada. Okay, that's kind of cool. Yeah, absolutely. I haven't heard of them, but be interesting to see what they offer. So we'll have to go there. Right now, I do love Wealthsimple. I use them, and I also use the National Bank brokerage. Free commissions is really big, I think. I don't want to pay commissions if I don't have to. So they both offer that, which is really, really good. Okay, now that we've got through all of the hellos, we should maybe do a little bit of news. All right, let's see what we got here. Our first story, of course, is all about Canadian jobs. So we had a jobs report drop this week, and it's really interesting. We added 39,900 jobs in August. Now, here's the interesting part. We were only expecting to add 20,000, and wage growth as well. It was up 5.2%. Now, in July, it was only up 5%. So wage growth has grown a little bit. Jobs, well, there's a little bit more of them. Now, at first glance, you might be looking at this and going, uh-oh, Tiff Macklin is not having a good day when he sees this. But here's the thing you have to put into consideration. Also in August, we added 100,000 to our population, part of that whole immigration push. So when you add that much population, it is going to create jobs because all of a sudden you've got a lot more people who are buying stuff, and they need, of course, the employees to handle all of that. So in many senses, these numbers are not unexpected based on that 100,000. And I don't think it's actually anything to really worry about. So it's not that bad, I think, which is good. Let's see. Oh, Mr. Red Taco's in the house saying, afternoon, everyone. And Zach, I hold VFV instead. And I just have to deposit 1K into QT to activate my account. So good old Quest Trade. Nice. Yeah. So Quest Trade is they're a good. They are definitely a good broker if you're looking for American stuff, which is good. The downside, one of the downsides of the Quest Trade is that you're paying commissions. You also need a minimum balance of that $1,000. So that makes it a little bit not as accessible, depending on how much you have. Like if you're a brand new investor, you've got your first $200 to invest. You don't want to have to sit on it until you get to $1,000 to sign up with something like Quest Trade. It's one of the reasons that Wealthsimple, I think, has been so accessible for people. So that's kind of cool. Vinit's in the house saying hello, everybody, and that's awesome. All right, let's jump. Let's get these news out of the. We'll pound the news out pretty quickly here today, I think. China strikes back. So Apple stocks this week. If you hold Apple, you probably saw your stocks were down a little bit. They dropped 6%, all because the Chinese government has decided to ban iPhones for their government employees. Now, they said it has to do with Siri not being secure, and they had their normal excuses that they would have. Now, many people think it's actually a retaliation for the U.S. stance on using Chinese tech, so things like TikTok or Huawei. So it's kind of interesting. Is Apple getting caught in the war between China and the U.S.? Maybe. Now, here's the thing that would really hurt, though, for Apple. China makes up 1/5 of Apple's total revenue. So this is definitely something that we don't want to see happen. Hopefully, this gets resolved pretty soon. Yeah, it's one of these interesting things. So we'll have to sort of see. I think you're going to see with things like this, you'll definitely see a bigger push on Apple because I know they've already started putting some of their stuff over in India. I imagine you'll see a bigger push in that direction for them. All right. And Richard is in the house. Hello, Richard. And Mr. Red Taco says, "Oh yes, because everything from China is so secure." Yeah, that's a good, well placed cough, Mr. Red Taco. Well placed. Richard said China banned iPhone to push their crappy no app phone. Yes, apparently there is a new version of the Huawei, and they're really trying to push that. And here's the funny thing: in the Chinese government already, most of them are using Huawei, so it's not like this is costing Apple a lot of business, but it's the overall look. When it's sort of like the whole China's banning Bitcoin. China was doing that constantly. How many times did I see Bitcoin or crypto YouTubers going on about China banning Bitcoin? Because it seemed like back in the heyday, China was banning Bitcoin every other week. So definitely an interesting thing. I don't think it'll last or persist. I think it's more of a flashy headline than anything else, hopefully. So we'll have to sort of see how that goes. Now, our next story is actually kind of a fun one. So let's pull it up. Here we go. So the best countries in the world. So we had a list that came out. And for those of you who haven't already seen this list, it came out from U.S. News and World Report. They ranked the best countries in the world. According to the U.S. News, the respondents had to connect the countries to several different attributes, including power, culture, influence, heritage, and social purpose. So where do you guys think Canada came up on this list? I'll give you the top 10. So at number 10, we got the Netherlands. So Netherlands, yeah, that's a great country. Number 9 was UK. 8 was New Zealand. New Zealand's a very beautiful country. Number 7, Germany. Number 6, Japan. Number 5. Number 5 was the US of A. So, they came in at number 5. Number 4, Australia. Number 3, Sweden. And Skits here says outside of the top 10. No, if they were outside the top 10, why would I cover it? That's the way I look at it. Whoops. Jonathan says China banned all foreign phones from government, not just iPhones. There's an interesting thing too. No, number 3 is Sweden. So number 2, Canada. We came in. Last year when they did the same list, we were number 3 last year, but we've moved up to 2 somehow. Don't know how, but we have. So we're sitting at number 2, and number 1 is Switzerland. So number 1 is Switzerland, apparently the best country to live in. Maybe if you really love cheese and those funky army knives, then that might be definitely a place to live. All right, let's see. I missed this question here from Vaughn. Let's get back here. From Jan, what's your view of the resource sector? Do you have a favorite in the critical mineral sector? Oh, it's really interesting. Lithium seems to be the easy play for most people, but I have heard little whispers that lithium is not as going to be as big as it has been, and that there might be some workarounds for lithium, simply for the one reason that lithium makes it a little bit less environmentally sound when it comes to recycling some of these batteries after their use. So we'll have to see. But right now, I think lithium is still a solid play. I've always loved gold. Gold is good. There's so many different uses for gold. Also, yeah, I think in that sector, I would go with lithium and gold as the 2 that I would more than likely look at. All right, now let's see here. Get down here to Jordan. It's lies, all lies. Those numbers can be skewed and misinterpreted and manipulated to say whatever, much like any study that produces numbers. Yeah, absolutely. Statistics is a very powerful tool. If you know how to use statistics, you can make them say a lot of different things. So I'm always careful of statistics. Now this one here, like I said, they actually surveyed about 17,000 people for the data. So it's just more of a fun thing. Everybody probably thinks their own country is number 1 or not. Let's see. Mr. Red Taco says, well, lucky us. We're number 2. Yes, Swiss chocolate. Some people love Swiss chocolate. But Jonathan doesn't. He prefers maple syrup and poutine. I think is that how you say it in the French version at Putin, and then poutine for the English version, but Putin, almost like the president of Russia. I could be pronouncing that wrong, but we'll have to see. Skits likes Franco Nevada for gold. Yeah, definitely a good one. I actually did a video on natural resources, like I think it was last week. So if you haven't checked that out, be sure to check that out. We went up a spot for one word, Putin or poutine, depending on where you're from. There we go. I'm in Ottawa, so technically, I suppose I can get away with saying it either way because this is a very bilingual city, even though I don't speak very much French myself, as I think we've talked about before. Dear banana bread. Okay, let's move to our next story. Let's get these out of the way, and then it's just chat. So yeah, the Bank of Canada had their rate hike decision. So they've decided to pause. Of course, they're staying at the 5%, which is awesome, which is really, really good. However, now Tiff Macklin did make it clear that we're not having that this is not a pivot. It's simply a pause, and they are prepared to hike more if needed. Now, a lot of people actually think what he's hoping is by kind of using some strong language in saying that we are going to do another one, probably, that he's actually hoping he doesn't have to, but the fear of another one down the road might help people start to not spend so much, might help destimulate the economy a little bit. We'll have to see. I do think we're going to see another one. Now, I don't know about October. Maybe if I had to actually take a stab in the dark, I would say November probably, but I think October we'll see another pause, but there are people who think we're going to get that hike in October. Of course, this can all change once we see more data coming out. There's so much room for data to just go absolutely crazy. Now, let's see. Wayne says, my textbook in my first year economics course was How to Lie with Statistics. Absolutely. Absolutely. I actually took biostatistics in university. That was a fascinating course because it was just basically with science. Of course, we don't want to lie with our statistics, but yet a lot of times you take the data and you give it to people who have special interests, and they will do some incredible things with that data to make it look like it's saying one thing when it's actually not saying that at all. And it's the same thing with economics. So yeah, it's very easy to lie with statistics. And I always say, question things. Always question where something comes from. Question who's funding it. When you're looking at a study, like for example, back in the day when everybody were smokers and that, the tobacco industry used to pay scientists to skew statistics to basically say that smoking wasn't so bad. And that, and then they would parade out some of these scientists. But they were absolutely, we now know that those guys were absolutely full of it. So, that's fine. All right, Muggsy's in the house. Whoops, right here. A little late. Hi, everyone. And Skit says, let's see if inflation goes up while interest rates are paused. That's a big thing to take a look at. Let's see what happens. Hopefully, this is the thing, though. A lot of times when we raise rates, it takes time for the effects to actually filter into the economy. So hopefully, we're going to see more effects. Now, I personally think that we're going to be at 5 for a while, but if we go up to 5.25, like I said, maybe November, then at that point, we would have to see in the new year whether or not, after that filters in, whether or not we finally got it down. But they're still very firm on getting us down to that 2% inflation rate. I think it's going to take them longer than they think. And hopefully, even if as long as we're creeping in the right direction, I would be hesitant to increase those rates anymore because there's a lot of people drowning out there in debt right now. A lot of people who are taking their mortgages and they're using amortization to pay basically part of their interest, and they're getting deeper and deeper in debt. So we got a huge hole that we're in. And, it's funny. I mean, I know myself going into the pandemic, as soon as the government started paying people to stay at home, I was like, oh dear, we are going to be paying for this for decades. And that's what I was thinking. And I think we're going to see that for sure. Now, Richard says, do you think BCE will keep dropping because the bank rate might increase? Um, well, I don't know if I would say that's the case here, but I think there's a possibility that I think BCE, TELUS, Rogers, I think there's still a little bit of pain ahead for them, but I don't think they're going to drop a lot more than where they already are as things start to sort of settle after the whole merger between Shaw and Rogers, and then the whole freedom thing. Well, Quebecor picked up freedom, and they've gone kind of global, but so far it hasn't seemed to really impact. So that's a good thing if you're a holder of one of the big three. If we don't get those impacts, those prices should start to look a little bit better once the economy gets a bit more green. Like we had a pretty red week other than Friday. So there was still a lot of fear in the market. People are still uncertain to what's going on. And I think it's going to be that way for a little bit. But maybe September. I mean, September traditionally does tend to be a red month. Like it's been red a little bit more than it's been green. Not a lot. Like it's not like you're not guaranteed to have a red month in September, but people sometimes really think of September as a red month, and then October, that Uptober. But I mean, last year October was dismal. That's where we hit our low. So, well, other than the fact that once we hit that low, you could say, oh, it's been all up since then. But still, I'm looking forward to October. I will just say that much. Larry says, picked up a ton of Enbridge, and Enbridge calls at 35, expiring January 2024. Yes. We're going to talk a little bit about Enbridge when we get there. We get that. Actually, that's going to be the next topic. Yeah, let's actually just jump into that right now. But I'm going to catch up first, Larry, and then we'll jump right into Enbridge. Wayne is massaging some data. Oh, that's awesome. Someone on my Facebook posted a picture of Christmas stuff in their Walmart. Hurry, stock up before it's gone. Yeah, maybe. Let's see here. Wow. Wayne Smith. Wow, that makes total sense now that you say it. All right, happens to Stats Canada all the time. They provide the data and then some group twist it to tell a narrative. Yeah, absolutely. Doctors would smoke in commercials too. Yeah, absolutely. They used to have commercials with Fred Flintstone smoking. So, they really used to push the narrative. RBC offered me early access to ENB at $44.45 per share. But what is it? But a minimum of 100 and premium per share makes no sense. Better to buy on the open market. All right. Yeah, let's see here. Skit says, is it just me? I'm hoping for it to all fall apart. I need some bubbles to burst because this soft landing isn't making anything easier for me. It's kind of funny. When you look at the economic cycle, a recession is an absolutely normal part of it. So part of me thinks that if we have this soft landing and we somehow manage to avert a recession, that we're always going to have that in the back waiting. Whereas sometimes it's like, if we just have a recession, let's do it. Let's get it over with. And then the market can recover and we could perhaps have a better and stronger bull market on the other end. So there is part of me that thinks that too. So I will definitely say that. BCA just cut their media division. Everything else is healthy. Yeah, there we go. Hoping the Bank of Canada pivots before 2025 for my mortgage renewal. I think, King A Day, you actually have a chance. If there's going to be a pivot, I would definitely say maybe mid-2024, but I don't see it before then. Vic says, China looks like it's in big trouble and being too quiet. Also, as they boycott Apple and iPhones, watch out for contagion. China's interesting. I'll just leave it at that. Enbridge is a good buy at the moment. Now, here's the interesting thing about Enbridge, and we're kind of already been hitting it. Let's just switch over to that article. So what happened this week with Enbridge is very simple. They actually have decided to acquire 3 U.S. natural gas utility companies. They were all previously owned by Dominion Energy, and this is costing them $9.4 billion. Now, part of that funding, they actually acquired $4.6 billion by issuing new shares. So that's what causes dilution, so share dilution. We've seen a little tiny bit of it. So we did see that their share price dropped by several dollars, I think about $3 roughly. So that's fine. I think that's actually not that bad. I'm pretty sure they're trying to minimize the amount of dilution that's out there, because that's one thing shareholders don't like. Shareholders don't like when their investment gets diluted. Now, what they have overall done because of this is they've reduced their oil earnings down to about 50% of their overall earnings, and they've caused their natural gas earnings to rise up to 47%. So they're looking at natural gas as being a little bit cleaner, and this is part of their overall push to try to move away from oil and more into more natural gas and renewables. So it plays in that direction, although it's not as renewable as it could be. But that's kind of what's going on with Enbridge. I still think this is a solid play for them, and I do still think they are a good buy at where are they at right now? $45, I think, right now. So I think they're not a bad buy. So Skits is cynical, but you should know this going in. The good old days of Fred Flintstone smoking on a plane. Holy banana bread. Let's see. Drink beer like hockey. Own Enbridge. Then you are a Canadian. Vic, you need to do a Canadian commercial. I am Canadian. I drink beer. I like hockey, and I own Enbridge. It's funny. It's actually really interesting. I was in the backyard yesterday because I was laying down some AstroTurf, because we decided to put AstroTurf down because it makes the yard look pretty cool. So when I was laying the AstroTurf, Enbridge came by. I really wanted to ask him about his stock share, if he got any stocks or anything from the company as part of his employment plan. I didn't, but I was thinking about it. I was like, I really should have asked. And after he was gone, I was like, damn, why didn't I ask him? Because I kind of wanted to know. Skit says they diluted their stocks by 6%, but as usual, the market overreacts by 12 to 15% drop. Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things. People hear dilution and, they get scared. And there have been some crazy dilution. If you look at Air Canada in the pandemic, they did some pretty decent diluting of their shares then. But yeah, with this Enbridge, it's not that bad. You'll make it up. You'll make it up, and you'll be back in the green. If if you had bought before this, you'll be back in the green probably by the end of the year, to be honest. Let's see. Enbridge is my first buy and forever hold for my hedge fund. I just launched last week. I love this, and I love this natural gas hydrogen play. What a beautiful discount. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And Carl Blaze is in the house. Hello, Carl. Good to see you. Vic says, I'm sure most Canadian stock owners own banks, railroads, pipelines, oil, telecoms, and some utilities. Yeah, absolutely. Well, my favorite stock is CNR. So I definitely hold some railroad. All right. And then right on, Larry. Awesome. All right. Now, somebody mentioned hydrogen. Well, let's pull out of there and let's jump into the next story. So Newfoundland is getting a little bit greener. So company over in South Korea, they're called SK Ecoplanet Co. So they've secured a big chunk of land, like 1,078 square kilometers. It was former Crown land, but they have secured it from the government, and they're going to be building a $15 billion green hydrogen plant. In fact, when this is complete, it will be the biggest in the world. Now, they're going to create their green hydrogen by using wind energy. And if you've ever been to Newfoundland, they do not have a shortage of wind. They never have a shortage of wind. Probably one of the windiest places in the country, save for like if you're near the Crow's Nest Pass, like places like Lethbridge, where the wind doesn't seem to ever stop. So the idea is to use all of this energy, this wind energy, to convert green hydrogen into about 1.08 million tons of green ammonia every year. So that's a lot. What's really interesting too is I know I did a video about hydrogen probably a year ago, and that was the thing. Back then, Canada had signed a deal with Germany to supply them with a bunch of green hydrogen. And there was another wind farm that was being set up in, I think it was near Stephenville. that's being set up as well. So a lot of green hydrogen that's going to be produced over there. And I think Nova Scotia also has some green hydrogen plays that they're working on as well. So that is not a bad thing. Vic says, also Canadians, 40% vote, but 100% complain about the elected government. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Diversified banana bread portfolio. Yeah, well, I mean, if your portfolio is 100% banana bread, it's not that diversified, but we'll still go with it. It's still amusing. Mr. Red Taco says, I read that Dollarama earnings report is on the 13th. Any thoughts? In my next week's section, I do have that in my earnings report, but we'll spoil that part. So for the quarter, Dollarama actually did pretty well. They've mostly been on an upward trend. So I would say they're either going to meet expectations or maybe just exceed them a little bit. So I think it'll be a good report for them. It'll be very interesting to see whether or not this turns into a big windfall for people holding them. But I do expect to see their price go up a little bit. It's at the point that if they were less expensive, I might put a play on them for this one because it is. I think they had a pretty good. I think they had a pretty good session. And Dollarama is one of those companies that does well when the economy is slowing down because people are a little bit more mindful of their money, so they're spending more time at Dollarama. So I do like Dollarama. Skit says Labrador Iron Ore Royalty Income Corporation must hate that news. Well, I would say not, because iron ore is a little bit different. It's not really used so much for energy as it is for making iron, for example, because you melt down iron ore to make iron and iron products. So I don't think they're that worried about it. But that is a company. I do like that company, Labrador Iron Ore Royalty. When iron ore is doing well, it's a company that is not a bad company to grab. And because it's a royalty company, means they usually have not so much of a high overhead. The problem is with, I think, Labrador Iron Ore is that their dividend is very fluent. Depending on how iron ore is doing, that dividend can move quite a bit. But if you're okay with that, then it is good. I've been in there for their dividend more than once because it has a couple times it's been really, really good. Let's see. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to spill the beans early. Oh, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with spilling the beans. Vic does it all the time, like quite seriously. All right, let's jump to that next story. Oh, we're almost through the stories. This is good. So the next story, Disaster Relief Force. All right. So what this is with all the natural disasters happening in Canada, one of our former Army commanders, so Lieutenant General Andrew Leslie, has actually said to Ottawa, he's been calling on Ottawa to create a national response team that's dedicated to fighting natural disasters. So this would be a team that you could send in when there's forest fires or hurricanes, and you wouldn't have to like divert people from the military to do stuff because you would have a group that would do this. He says that the response team needs to be built with additional funds, and it cannot depend on a military that he believes that are already stretched too thin. So it's interesting that is kind of the reality we're in now. If you look at just this summer, we've had so many stuff. We had fires, Nova Scotia, Quebec, BC. I think they're still going in BC. Not sure. I haven't heard much about them lately. Now we got Hurricane Lee that might make an impact in the Maritimes as well. So, we got a good share of natural disasters. Oh, they also had the flooding. They had historic flooding in Nova Scotia. So, it seems like Nova Scotia seems to have taken a big hit so far this year. So, may not be a bad idea. If the world is changing and climate disasters are going to be big, why not have something to go for it? Okay, our next story, and whoops, we'll pull this over here. All right, I'm going to try to do a crypto story every week now that crypto's kind of back in the news a little bit more. Not guarantee I'll have one every week, but I'm going to certainly try. Now, before we jump into that, Skits just said, just another agency not needed. We got firefighters, and Canada is prone to natural disasters. Yeah, exactly. What I would say is not so much an agency to fight them. I would think maybe some kind of a command structure that is ready that can then utilize some of the other resources we have. So you have a command structure that knows, what resources we have in which province. So, our fire resources, military resources, things like that. Maybe that could be a way to go, but we'll have to see. All right. So with crypto, so apparently, um, when it comes to the exchanges, apparently 8 exchanges make up about 90% of all crypto trading volumes. Now, this is a measure of all buying and selling interest within 10% of the current price and 90% of total trading volume. So that's quite a bit. Now, there used to be a lot more, but of course, a lot of them have gone out of business. FTX, giving a good example. Yeah, there's just been so many that have had some serious issues. So right now, Binance is currently dominating the crypto market. They're responsible for over 30% of global market depth, and more than 60% of all trades are going through Binance. Now, some other significant exchanges are like Coinbase, OKX, and Huobi. I think I mispronounced Huobi, but I'll just call it Huobi. What's interesting is that there are some advantages to this concentrated trading, and that is that any individual exchange is going to have a lot more liquidity because where they're not going through. So Binance has a crap load of liquidity, so that's kind of a good thing. Now on the downside, you've got the potential vulnerabilities in the crypto industry. So things like that FTX collapse, that was all of the same kind of idea. But, it's kind of one of those neat little things going on with that. And, let's see here.
Here's what I find.
My watch is speaking again. Let's see. In BC, some residents are being trained in fighting forest fires since the massive season this year. Yeah, absolutely. I never heard an update about Ledger Cold Wallet security. I have not heard of an update yet either, but they may have done it on the down low. Sometimes a company will fix something and not try to yell it out loud because a lot of people probably didn't even hear about the issue to begin with. So a lot of times when you say, hey, I fixed this issue we had, and people are like, what? There was an issue? So that does happen a fair amount. A decentralized currency, Bitcoin, but have centralized exchanges. I feel the two are at odds. I guess I can understand that. Depending on, I think once Bitcoin becomes regulated, so once we have more regulation on Bitcoin, and I know a lot of people who love decentralization probably feel that, putting regulation on it, may move it out of that direction. It doesn't have to, but if we had some regulation on Bitcoin, then that would mean that we might get a lot more financial institutions providing it. It might be a way to sort of expand on not just exchanges, but what constitutes an exchange. It would be I think it would be a good thing if Bitcoin were available everywhere and it was, we had a bit more adoption. Especially, like I said, I've been saying for a long time, once we get institutional adoption of Bitcoin, we're going to have some really interesting movements in the price. I think that's when we're going to start to see that price start to go up again. I know right now we've been down this month. We've been hanging out around 26,000, opposed to up around 30. So hopefully, I think in October, I think we're going to probably be back up around 30. But yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing. And this here, Skit says, BlackRock makes a Bitcoin ETF. Are you buying in? If it looks like, and here's the thing, it's not even just BlackRock. There's a lot of people right now vying for a Bitcoin ETF, and right now at this point, the SEC is pushing them away. But I know that there's been a lot of challenges that basically the SEC is not giving reasonable reasons or even clear reasons as to why they're delaying things and pulling their feet. So we have to sort of look and see how that's all going to turn out. But if I knew, for example, if I knew a spot Bitcoin ETF was going live next Friday, I would be playing some Bitcoin assets at the very least going into that, because I think there'll be I think the price will explode. I don't it'll be higher overall. I think we'll have a big explosion initially, like it may go up quite a bit and then it'll come back down and settle wherever it's going to settle. But wherever it settles, I think it's still going to be higher than where it's at now. So yes, that's going to be one of those things that when I see that coming, I'm going to put my money in the game a little bit. Try to make some more with it because I'm pretty confident that we're going to see some really nice movement on that. And I'm hoping it happens sooner than later, but they could certainly put that off for quite a while. And here's the thing. I'm going to get to 9 here in a second. Regulate Bitcoin. Gasp. I know. It kind of goes against the whole original idea of Bitcoin, but at the same time, if we want the money in there, if we really want that stability, unfortunately, that's kind of the way it's leaning at this point in time. Let's see. With the rising oil prices, wouldn't we expect inflation to rise back up? Yes, that's a simple answer. USA only has 20 days left in the strategic reserve. I don't think they can stop this price jump. No. Right now, OPEC and other oil-producing countries, a lot of them are voluntarily restricting oil production. They're trying to drive the prices up, and it's working. Plus, we're heading into colder months, so fall and winter. People will be using a lot more oil. These prices are going to go up. When these prices go up, and especially in Canada, not only are they going up, that then also means you got carbon taxes on top of them, compounding everything. That means it's going to cost a lot more money to get groceries from farmer to store. So things like that are going to start causing, and not even just groceries, just products in general, transporting things around will cost more. So we could see a temporary movement in the price of everything. So that could cause some inflation. Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't buy an ARK Bitcoin ETF. Well, no, I mean, in Canada, we already have spot ETFs here. Like Purpose has one, and I think iShares might have one. There's a few different companies that have some spot ETFs. Smash the like button. Yeah, absolutely. I always forget to tell people to do that. When you guys hit the like button, it gets us out to more people so they can see that's going on. And then, there might be some people bored out of their mind on a Sunday afternoon thinking, if only I had some crazy Canuck to listen to. Well, heck, I'm a crazy Canuck. Come listen to me. Hit like. Awesome. Skit says, buy Suncor. There we go. Suncor, more energy. Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of one of these things. Sometimes when a market is doing really, really well, you can stand back and you could take a list of all of the major energy companies and put them on a dartboard, close your eyes and throw the dart, and you're probably going to make money. It really just boils down to, though, when you're playing oil, you have to ask yourself, here's what I say. You got to ask yourself, am I just in here for a short term? So do I want to come in, make a quick buck and get out? Or am I looking for a long-term investment? If I'm looking for a long-term investment, well, then I'm going to start looking at some of the heavier hitters. I'm going to, look at my your Torlamine, or on the utility side, I'll look at the, your Enbridge or your Fortis, things like that, because I think they have a lot of good stuff going on. All right, now that we've covered all the news, start throwing questions in here, guys. We'll just start hitting and answering and talking about whatever you guys want to talk about. And I'm just going to get rid of the orange since we finished the crypto part. But hey, if you guys want to talk about more crypto, that's up to you. So next week, let's see what's going on here next week. So in Canada, we don't really have a lot going on. It's a pretty slow week. There's not a lot dropping that's really that important. But in the US, on September 13th, also known as my birthday, we got the CPI dropping. And then on the 14th, we got the PPI dropping. So this will give us a good reflection on what is happening in the US in regards to inflation. And that could influence the next Fed meeting. I still think the next Fed meeting, I think they're going to pause like we've done here. But we'll have to see how this is going. It'll be good to see these numbers come down. But with the price of oil going up, as Larry said, these numbers may not look that good. That's one of the reasons that core will probably be more important than CPI. So core CPI is where they remove the more volatile things like the price of oil and groceries out of that. So we'll have to take a look and see how that is going to look. But that's going to be really, really, really cool. Let's see. I feel so caught up. That's awesome. Yeah, that's the thing. You can't go to Facebook anymore for your news. You got to come here. And that's awesome. Happy early birthday. Thank you, Skips. Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to it. Yeah, birthdays are always a lot of fun. I think it's going to rain on my birthday, but, and it's actually Wednesday. So on Wednesdays, I'll actually be scripting the next video. So that's going to be interesting. Earnings, there's two big companies. So we've already talked about Dollarama. Dollarama is coming out. Also, if you invest in Empire Co., so EMP.A, they're coming out. And here's the interesting thing. They've also had a pretty good Q2. They were up. But, when you look, of course, when you look at their charts, it looks a little scary because after the end of Q2, they've been down pretty much since then. But it's hard to say. I think with this is one I wouldn't gamble on, Empire Co. I still think they'll meet expectations. I don't know if they'll exceed them, but I wouldn't gamble on them. But Dollarama is certainly somebody who I would say, yeah, I think that they'd be okay. Let's see. Andrew says, happy birthday. Well, thank you. Love me some Sobeys. Yeah, good old Sobeys. Ooh, and Larry's breaking out the cake for everybody. All right. It's funny. Some people are cake people. I'm not a cake person. I prefer pie. Why have we never heard about birthday pies? To me, that would be fantastic. Because I do love me some pie. All right. Video-wise next week. So I don't know why I'm leaning back. It's like, oh, we're moving a little bit too much. So video-wise next week, we got a lot, actually. So on Tuesday, I am going to be doing a roadmap to retirement supports. And it's interesting enough. Right now, the number one video on the channel is a video about old age security, it blows my mind. It's like, wow. And it's not just number one by a little bit. Like this one here, if you take my number two video, which is actually it's a dividend yield video, you can double the amount of views on that and you still don't catch the OAS one. So it's like, wow, there's an audience for that. I better really throw them out another video. Like last week, it exploded again. And I was just like, what? It was like, how did it just pick up another 500 views? So I'm like, okay, well, let's give those people at least something. So that's what's coming up Tuesday. It's going to be it's going to be a roadmap. Like, when should you start CPP? When should you start OAS? What's going on with the GIS? What's going on with the whole RRSP turning into an RRIF? You want to know about that? You're going to find out on Tuesday. Then the next thing is Thursday night is it's another live stream. It's for the community members, and they have voted. And this baffles my mind, but they have voted that I do the live stream on monthly Canadian dividend ETFs. So I'm like, wow, but that's a normal topic. I normally do that anyway. Why would you want to do that in because you can get me doing funky stuff on the community only ones, but no, they haven't. So any of you who do want to catch that one out, so I'm going to go over some monthly dividend ETFs on that stream. So I have to figure that one out. But any of you interested in that, just join up, become a channel member today. Here's a link for that. It's the price of a cup of coffee, and it gives you access to all the old videos, and also, maybe I send out little things like, when dividends come in, I send out a monthly dividend report and things like that. So yeah, anyway, I'll catch you guys. Any of you who want to join that live stream, that'll be Thursday night. So that's going to be awesome. All right. Friday, we'll have a video as well. It's a close call. Over on the community tab, we got the vote going on. And last time I looked, I think it was a U.S. Waste management company that was just eked ahead of Rogers in the vote. So if you want to have any part in what comes out for that deep dive, just get over to the community tab. Be sure to vote. I have a feeling like I'm going to end this vote on Tuesday. It's close. Right now, I cannot tell you which one is going to win because it's been going back and forth. Each time I look, it seems like it's either different. So that's what's coming up this week. Also, we'll be back here again next week, of course, for another live stream because, hey, who doesn't love the live streams? They're our opportunity to really have a good talk. Let's see here. Let's see. Monthly REITs are far more interesting than ETFs. Yeah, REITs are. It's funny. Everybody loved REITs back in the bull market. And then once we got into the bear market and a lot of the REITs, their price went down, a lot of people got a little bit off. But it's really interesting because now you're getting a better yield on a lot of these REITs, and their price is going to come back up. But I think the thing is, people have to realize when you're looking at REITs, most REITs, they're not made for to be growing your capital. They're made to be passive income. They're made to be income stocks. So you kind of have to look at it that way. And in that case, when the price goes down, it just means, hey, I'm getting a little bit more for my buck when it comes to my overall yield. Because when that price comes back up, who cares? You're still going to get that yield. That's what they're made for. They're made for the good old income. See, Larry says, I bought into the new Yield Max Exxon. So XOMO for the oil rise play to get that monthly dividend. Thoughts? I think that's not a bad idea, to be honest. There's a lot of new Yield Max out there, and I really need to do another Yield Max video just to touch on some of the new ones, like Exxon, for example. I know I was over there the other day because somebody had asked on my other Yield Max thing. They're like, they haven't declared their dividends yet for the Tesla stock. So, I mean, I went and sort of let them know that sometimes they're late, especially with Labor Day being a holiday. So I don't know if they have yet or not, but I imagine they must have because I haven't heard back from them. Because sometimes people are like that. It's like if I introduce them to a stock and then something goes wrong, they let me know that something went wrong so that I can look into it for them. Of course, sometimes I don't have access to the company. It's not like I have the CEO of YieldMax on speed dial, so I can just call them up and say, hey, come on, my YouTube friends here need an answer now. Although, when there was an issue a while back with Canoe, I actually did reach out to them, and they reached out back. So, you got to give credit where it's due. Andrew says more downside for Canadian banks. Probably. When we start seeing these mortgages that right now are on these nice low pandemic rates start renewing, there's going to be pain. There's going to be people who cannot afford the rates. There's a lot of people who, got into these mortgages, got into these rents, bought houses during the pandemic because, they were under the impression that the rates were going to stay low for a long time. And they didn't. So there will be pain. Absolutely. No way around it. Now, I know that some of the banking regulators are forcing the banks to put aside more money to help mitigate this pain. And I think that's going to help. I think that will help big time. But here's that thing. It's not going to completely mitigate everything. So there will definitely be pain out there. All right. Whoops. And Skit says, made for income. Vic says, Polyev next PM. Probably. I think the big question now is when you look at the polling is, will it be a conservative majority or will it be a minority? And right now, most polls are calling for a conservative majority. So, but here's the thing. This is if the election was held right now. There's a long time between now and 2025. So there are things, for example, the Liberals could do to maybe improve their chances a little bit. I still don't think they'd get back in. I think worst case scenario for those of you on the right is having a conservative minority. Best case, of course, your conservative majority. However, here's the thing, and here's what the Liberals need to do. One, and I don't think Trudeau is willing to do it, but Trudeau needs to step down. He needs this there to say, okay, you know what? I've had my run. Let's get somebody else in. And to me, this is a smart thing because he could say, look, you know what? I did this long term. I was not defeated at the end of it. It was whoever takes his place, whether it be Christia Freeland, and even then, I almost think that she wouldn't be the right choice either, only because the two of them are sort of thick as thieves in a way. And I don't want to say thieves as though they're stealing money. I'm trying not to imply anything, not just the expression. So they would almost need to have somebody, I would say somebody who most people don't even know, step in. And if they were going to do that, they would need to do that at least, I would say, the end of this year, early 2024, to give them a chance to try to. But even then, to be very honest, look at when the Conservatives did a lot of their leadership changes. It didn't even help at that point. So it may not help, but it would be at least it would give them a chance to get maybe a little bit more of the vote. But I think for now, I think it's probably going to be Polyev. Canadian banks have good reserves. Yeah, no, our Canadian banks are in good shape overall. Like, there's no danger. Like the stuff that happened in the US that happened to smaller banks, there's no danger of that happening in Canada. We don't have to worry about our banks losing a whole bunch of money. So, or, going out of business. It's never going to happen. That's why when somebody says, well, which of the big six is the best bank for me? My answer is usually whichever one you like is probably fine. If you want those dividends, then take a look at. I always say look at like the Bank of Nova Scotia. So Scotiabank, you're getting some crazy good dividends for your buck, and they're going to be fine. They're all going to be fine. Banks like TD might rebound a little bit faster, but if you're long-term investing, it doesn't matter how fast they rebound. Really, they're all going to get there. Let's see. They will just amortize their mortgage. They won't let people fail. Real estate makes up like 30% of GDP, and they will do everything possible. So it's a soft landing. Yeah. That's why we're seeing amortizations like we are today. The banks don't want to have to foreclose. They don't want a situation where they're taking all of these losses. They will bend things out of place. Now, it might be a situation that when your day is done, you're so deep in debt with your house that you can pretty much give that debt on to your heir. It might take a couple of generations just to pay off a house at the rate it's going. What sectors do you think will do well soonish? Well, material sector is doing really well right now. So, like the Hammond stocks, HMM.A, HPS.A have been doing absolutely crazy stuff in my portfolio. Like, I look at them, and every time I think, okay, they've had their ride, it's going to stop. It doesn't. It keeps going. So, materials, yeah. I think anything that is any of your recession-proof stocks, like I think things like the railroads are a safe bet. I also like some of the natural resources, so gold and lithium, as we sort of mentioned earlier. So I would say that, the soonish is kind of that interesting thing. It really depends. I think every sector is going to have some big winners in it. And what I usually say is take a look, make sure you're looking fundamentally at the company. Learn to use stock screeners. That will help you out big time, because you can go into a stock screener and say, okay, I just want somebody who is a winner. And you can look for companies that have shown profits over, the last 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. So learning how to use a stock screener is a great way to find some brand new stocks. I often use stock screeners to find some of the stocks that I'm going to put into video. So they're definitely awesome. Vic says, I have some thoughts about Justin. Oh dear, Vic. Vic, are you the guy that made that AI Justin campaign video? Just saying. I ran into that the other day, and I was like, oh my God, that's kind of funny. But anyway, if you want to see something funny, it's It's a campaign video for Justin Trudeau. The whole thing's done by AI. Just go on YouTube, type in AI Justin campaign, and I think you'll find it. It's funny. It's definitely funny. Let's see. Melanie Jolly. I have no idea what that means, but that's fine. Let's see. National Bank and Scotiabank have an awesome total return. Yeah, yeah. I love them both. But right now, with that dividend that you're getting from Bank of Nova Scotia with Scotiabank, it's one of the reasons that in the 0 to 100K challenge, I wanted a bank stock and I chose Scotiabank just for the dividend alone, and also knowing that they're all going to do really well, in my opinion. King of Day, CEO of Turkish crypto exchange, was sentenced to 11,196 years in jail after stealing $2 billion from customers. Holy banana bread. Yes, King of Day. That is a massive, like, that's a lot of years in jail. Like, it's like it's like sometimes there's overkill, unless the Turkish unless the Turkish criminal justice system knows something the rest of us don't know. It's probably overkill. Maybe the CEO of the Turkish crypto exchange was a vampire. I don't know. That's a really long sentence. Holy banana bread. See, that's not even me reading Holy Banana Bread. That was a legitimate Holy Banana Bread. Hallelujah. TELUS is going to lay me. Is that pay? Maybe pay. Pay me 2,500 plus for dividends for the quarter. Whoa, you've got a good amount of TELUS there, Vic. Nice going. Yeah, that's totally awesome. 500 shares of National Bank going to ex-dividend soon, $1.02 per share. Well, there you go. There's $500. Not bad. That's not bad at all. 9. Do you like ETFs like VIU and VEE? I use them to diversify. Yeah. Now here's the funny thing. I have ETFs, and most of the ETFs I have are they're more passive income than diversification ETFs. Other than I have VEXQ, VEQT. There's also XEQT, which I don't have, but those are really good ones to get some diversification. But I do want to start looking at expanding beyond the North American market, because I really, really would like to get my feet into that Indian market, because right now they've got the number one economy. Well, they've got the big, I don't want to say they have the number one economy in the world. They don't, but they have the most positive economy. Their economy is growing faster than anyone's. Andrew says, I just bought a stack of NA as well. Nice. How much TELUS are you holding? Yeah, I'm kind of curious about that one too, Skits. Whoops, sorry, we'll get back to Richard in a second. I picked up 1,615 National Bank. BCE dividends are hard to beat. Yeah, they're doing really well. Well, these prices are down. Once again, they are blue chip. I doubt they're going to cut their dividends. So they're not a bad thing to get into. And Andrew says, I was researching Scotiabank so much, but got NA 10% div. That's not a bad thing. Not a bad thing. All right. Oh, guys, we're really plugging along here, which is kind of good. So as we're getting towards the end, get in your questions. If you haven't yet, throw in some questions. It's one of those things like, I've had these streams go an extra 20 minutes based entirely on questions that came in. Ooh, let's see here. What do we got here? Andrew says BCE is awesome. And Larry says, I'm long Reliance and Adamani in India. Energy renewables play. Ooh, so you're doing a long play on that. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. One of these days, Larry, I'll have to get you on the show, and we'll just talk about all your longs and shorts. I think people would love to hear about all the stuff that you're doing. I think it sounds pretty darn cool. Yeah, that is really, really good. Okay, so guys, I want to talk a tiny bit about back to school. This almost made it as a story, but it didn't. So one of the interesting things is this is the first beginning of a school year with Chat GPT, um, with Chat GPT being a thing. So there are a lot of schools where people are worried about students writing their essays using Chat GPT. Some universities have outright banned the use of ChatGPT in their curriculum. Others have said, "Well, we don't really care, but just be wary that it might give you plagiarized content, and we will ding you for that." So it's kind of interesting. We're now kind of in that channel in that world where things are really, really changing. And if we see ChatGPT 5 come out, I think that's could come out as early as the end of the year or early into 2013. So it'd be interesting to see how that all turns out. But definitely just something I saw and I was like, oh, that is kind of interesting that, that is a new challenge that, teachers, professors have to kind of get into and make some changes perhaps just to try to, keep things all on the up and up. I think some teachers will probably, and this is what I would do if I were a teacher. I'd be like, okay, we got ChatGPT. It's a tool. Use it as you want, but I would teach them to use it as a more of as an aggregator. So, because this is how I use it. So, for example, if I pull up some information that I need on the net in regards to a company, and I get this big long ass I don't know if I can say long asked on YouTube. I probably can. But if I get this really big article and it's like, I just want a couple key points out of this. Well, I'll take that. I'll highlight the whole thing and I'll just go over to Chat GPT and I'll say, hey, can you just summarize the key points of this article for me, please? And I will post the article in there and Chat GPT will do it. And then I can look through it, and grab the information that I want. That's kind of the way I use it. It's kind of one of those things, but you have people out there that just sort of make it do the whole work. And, I know there were lawyers, and I've mentioned this before. There were some lawyers, I think, in New York that they got their hands slapped by the judge because they had ChatGPT write up some of their briefs, and some of the stuff that it put in there, it was quoting cases and precedents that didn't even exist. So you always got to be careful with stuff like that. So I don't know if you guys are any of you guys who are parents who got kids who went back to school, what are they thinking about Chat GPT? What are you thinking about Chat GPT? Have you given them any tips on how not to let Chat GPT ruin their learning experience for them? So definitely it's something to think about anyway. All right. Well, guys, I don't got much more to say. But I think, I can see over on the side that there's more. It's funny, there's a small lag between when it pops up on YouTube and it pops up over here in StreamYard. Let's see, ALV.V looks like a good company. I think it is. Let me take a quick peek at it. ALV.V. That's right. Alapetro Energy. I knew I recognized it, and I know I've covered them before. Now, they are pretty small, 976. And yeah, they've really been on a tear over the last 3 years, so they've been continually going up. So, yeah, I would say, ooh, look at that dividend. So they have a quarterly dividend of 7.586%. That's not too bad. And it's also paid out in USD, but that's fine. It just gets converted to Canadian. So instead of the 14 USD, you might get 15 or 16 cents, probably 16 cents. So that's not too bad. Yeah, Andrew, that does look like a good little company, good little energy play. I mean, I'd have to dig a bit deeper, but the surface data looks certainly good. I mean, they even have a half decent market cap. You're looking at almost 400 million. So yeah, not too bad. Bombay Stock Exchange. Yeah, that definitely will be a place to go. All right. Well, anyway, guys, that's it for today. I'm going to have my supper here in a little bit. And I also actually have to finish my script for Tuesday's video. Almost there. Anyway, it has been great that you guys are here. I love Sunday afternoons with you guys. Also, if you are a channel member, be sure to check out that that channel member live stream on Thursday night. That's going to be exciting. Until then, everybody, have yourself a fantastic night, and I will see you guys again here next week. We'll do this all over again. All right, bye everybody. Have a great rest of weekend.